the great barbaric Caesar. The persecution of the Christians continued only in the Diocese of Galerius, and particularly of those of Maximus Dia in Syria and Egypt. Maximus ordered punishments ranging from mutilations and hard labor in mines and quarries to execution for men, women, and children who refused to participate in pagan sacrifices. He also attempted to counteract the influence of the Christian church by organizing a pagan church and priesthood with a similar hierarchy of priests, charitable institutions, and local temples subordinated to the great city temples. Finally, in 311 AD, while in the clutches of a mysterious disease, Galerius became convinced of the futility of Christian persecutions that kept multiplying. As Senior Augustus, he issued his famous Edict of Toleration, which granted Christians all over the empire freedom of worship. They'd been killing Christians before, but here's what they did. They brought Christianity and paganism into the same church and mixed it up. That's what's wrong with Christmas. You got all the terminology: born again, a virgin-born Savior. You have a new birth. You've got salvation. You got these words that are the terminology of Christianity, but people don't have any idea what they mean. There's no daily cross, no death to self, no self-denial. They gather around a baby in a manger and sing, "Oh, come let us adore him." And they're everything from Hindus and Buddhists to Baptists and Catholics. And they all gather around the same manger, and it's a baby that's never risen. It's never grows up. It's never dead. It's never buried. It's never resurrected. It's not a resurrected Christ. They issued the Edict of Toleration, which granted Christians all over the empire freedom of worship and a right to reopen their churches, provided they pray for him and the state and do nothing to disturb public order. He explained his change of policy by stating that it was better for the empire for people to practice some religion than none at all. I got to go to church somewhere. No, you don't. Don't go to listen to some guy lie to you, a Baptist church, and he talks about accept Christ and the sinner's prayer. A few days after the proclamation of this edict, Galerius died. After the death of Galerius, the 4 remaining Augusti kept the empire divided by their mutual jealousy and hate. Maximus Dia at once overran and seized the Asiatic provinces of Galerius and threatened Licinius' control over the Balkans. The Balkan states are Romania and all those up in there. In anticipation of war with Maxentius, Constantine made an alliance with Licinius and betrothed him to his sister Constantia. Meanwhile, Maximus came to a secret understanding with Maximus. Now, I've got a book here. It's called, if I can find it. It's called The Myth of Mary. In The Myth of Mary, it's talking about how Mary was brought in, how that Aphrodite was brought into the Roman Catholic Church. And in this book, it'll tell you how that Constantine brought this system into the church and why he brought it in. Let me read a little bit from it to you. We cannot examine all the details of that period, but it is enough to say that between 235 and 297, this is how Christmas came into the church. How the Feast of Saturn came into the church. There was not the slightest glimpse of peace or tranquility in the Roman Empire. All of it was about, the reason Christmas or this Feast of Saturn came in the church, it was about money and power. It was how Constantine could keep a hold on the Roman Empire. That was what it was about. That's all. The emperors succeeded one another in extremely short periods of time, generally concluding with bloodshed. The barbarian invasions of the Roman Empire, basically Persian and Germanic, that's what the Goths and the Visigoths were. They were Germanic people, and so were the Huns, were repeated and hard to contain. To cite only a few examples, in 238, the Carps and the Goths crossed the Danube, the latter obtaining a tribute from Rome. Rome started exacting heavy taxes on the Goths. In 244, Julius Philippus was obliged to also buy peace from the Persians in exchange for a surrender of territories. In 250, the Goths again crossed the Danube and 2 years later sacked Asia Minor. 3 years later, the Germans were razing Auvergne. Raze means to level to the ground, R-A-Z-I-N-G. And the Franks were reaching Spain. To top it off, an epidemic of the plague that started in 250 would extend over 15 years. Starting in 256, inflation would gallop out of control. It is almost impossible to imagine that chaos would signify the people of the empire. The slaves would run away and become highway robbers. The idea began to gain ground that the only way to save the empire was through a military dictatorship. And it had to be a religious one at that. Constantine and the pagan invasion. This is how Christmas came into the church. This is history. I'm reading something that sounds, it might sound boring if you're not really interested in this, but it's how it came in. When Constantine, in 312, when Constantine and Licinius arose as conquerors, 12 years later, Constantine defeated Licinius as well and became exclusive master of the Roman Empire, which once again was subject to the will of a single man. Everything was ruled by Constantine. Constantine was conscious from the beginning of the enormous value that religion could have as a unifying element in the empire hounded by grave external and internal problems. His Illyrian predecessors had dreamed of the possibility of implanting sun worship as the unifying religion. This is what's going to unify Christianity and paganism. As a unifying religion, and at least at the beginning. Constantine seemed to have the same goal. Constantine was conscious of the importance of forcing a new religion. This is where Christmas comes in. Of forcing a new religion that was monotheistic. They had all of these polytheistic, many gods religions. He was going to bring a monotheistic religion in and bring the barbarians' gods with it. And that would integrate all the subjects of the empire. It would make everyone blend together, a mixed religion. We've talked about that and preached on that, haven't we? Precisely because of this, he moved from polytheism to solar or sun monotheism. One God. A sun God that was one that would encompass all the empire with hardly any difficulty. Christianity had survived since the first century the partial persecutions that cost hundreds of the faithful their lives. The new emperor was conscious of the importance of having good relations with Christianity. He knew Christians were, you couldn't kill them all. They were just like Israel when they were trying to slaughter them there. When the Pharaoh was trying to slaughter them in the first chapter of Exodus, they kept multiplying. We can't get rid of them. They couldn't get rid of them. The more they slaughtered them, the more they butchered them, the more they flourished. That's true. He knew as well how fruitless it was to persecute them directly. It would get nowhere. Over a short period of time, beginning around 312, Constantine concluded that the cement he needed to build his empire was not so much the solar religion as it was Christianity. Nonetheless, it could not be just any Christianity, but a Christianity, a Catholicism, let me add that, a Roman Catholicism that would lend itself to political purposes. Roman Catholicism is a political religion. At one point, I believe it was Pope Leo X, one of the popes, told everyone in England, "You will not bow to the King of England," and they did not. They stopped giving him any respect or homage. This is a government religion is what it is. He needed a Christianity that contained a hierarchical. A hierarch is a presider over sacred rites with chief priest. He needed a hierarchy and a monolithic structure. Because of this, Constantine repressed all efforts at division at the heart of Christianity. That attitude established the consequential precedent of a political power intervening in religious matters. It was a mixture of politics and religion. Huh? Yeah. The fruit of this principle would later be the inquisitional fires lit by the king to aid the Catholic Church in its hunt for heretics. The heretics were the witches. That was the true Christian.